This is E&P Reports, a vodcast from editor and publisher. Since 1884, the authoritative voice of news publishing. And this episode sponsored by IQ Audience Plus by Town News. Consumer revenue has never been more important. Digital leaders at media organizations worldwide understand the need to accelerate its growth now. Plus, traditional one-size-fits-all paywalls aren't the answer. They're blunt instruments that treat all visitors the same way. IQ Audience Plus is a smart, dynamic metering solution that empowers media companies to maximize revenue by identifying key audiences, seeding engagement, and growing membership and subscriptions. Supercharge your consumer revenue, grow engagement, and bolster your advertising income now with IQ Audience Plus. Visit townnews.com EP today to learn more. And hi, I'm Mike Blinder, publisher of E&P. Quick housekeeping, if you're listening to me on your favorite podcast channel, please follow us right away. If you're watching me on our YouTube channel, bottom of the screen, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell to the right. You'll get an update each and every time we upload a new episode of E&P Reports. There are over 230 Black-owned newspapers still in this country, but very few of them are still in print right now. And we talk about the entire universe of all news publishers going through, very, very tough headwinds now to achieve profitable business. But it really has seemed to impact a lot the Black journalistic entities in North America today. So what I thought I would do is explore a story that was in Editor and Publisher and give it a little bit more amplification. We're talking about Word in Black. And I've got a great panel here. Panel, come on in and join me if you can. And we'll try to give our audience an update on what is going on with Word in Black. First of all, there's Nick Charles. Nick, you've got ink in your veins, I understand, right? You don't look old enough, but you've worked at a few papers and other.
Had a couple jobs, yeah.
Now you're the managing director for Walton Black. And we have Tony Draper, the CEO of the Afro-American newspaper. Tony, you come from us from Baltimore, correct, ma'am?
Absolutely, Baltimore and Washington.
Oh, Afro, of course, both markets. Larry Lee, president and publisher of the Sacramento Observer. So we're bi-coastal today. And Nick, what city are you located in?
I am just outside New York City.
Okay, excellent. So first of all, Word in Black started with funding from the local media association. Nick, why don't you give me a quick background on how this entity started?
Well, I think it did start with conversations about how folks can survive and thrive given what's going on in media today. And the conversation became one of our publishers, Eleanor Tatum of the New York Amsterdam News, and the head of the LMA, Nancy Lane. And LMA came up with some money, and then we were lucky enough to get some funding from the Walton Family Foundation. And then, all the publishers, they got together, they know each other, they've known each other. And I want to think, and I'm being chauvinistic and biased here, but they're the best of the Black newspapers. I think so. People can argue, but they got together and they put together Word in Black as their national platform to amplify what they were doing in their own markets. And because issues basically run the gamut in these different cities, but the thread is the inequities that happen in society, and then they were exposed and amplified by COVID and George Floyd being murdered. Now you had not only a great platform, you had a timely, topical response. And so Word in Black has grown by leaps and bounds, and it's basically a vehicle for the publishers to amplify what they do and to give voice to folks in their community.
It also gives one kind of place where you can see all the stories collectively from the Atlanta Voice, Houston Defender, Washington Informer, Dallas Weekly, of course, the Afro with Tony here, Michigan Chronicle, Larry's Sacramento Observer, the Seattle Medium, and the St. Louis American. Is it still just 10 or have more come on board since we published that story, Nick?
We still have 10. The decision to expand lies with the publishers, but we are very, very circumspect about how we're going to do our expansion. We'll make sure we're on solid footing with the 10 publishers we have and solid footing with Word in Black going forward.
Larry, why did you want the Sacramento Observer to be part of this initiative. Or first of all, how is the Sacramento Observer doing? You are in charge of this. And are you still printing a print publication in Sacramento?
Absolutely. So, Mike, again, thanks for giving us the opportunity to speak with you and your audience. The Observer is historically a legacy print publication. I'm a second generation publisher. You talk about ink in the veins. I grew up in the newspaper business, and we are very much still printing a print edition. In fact, we just went through a redesign. So we're investing still in the print product. We found even during COVID, the demand, the need for a print product is still extremely important, but we're also expanding our additional abilities to reach our audiences where they are, whether it's through mobile or other platforms, desktop as well. So I think, why did I want to be a part of it? I mentioned I grew up in this business. Some of these publishers have known me since I was a little kid. And I love what we do. My dad was our publisher for 52 years. And I've been in the business full time really for almost 25 years. And so I'm really invested in trying to make sure our publication and the Black press in general is healthy. I think it's really important that our news ecosystem for communicating with the African American community and for and on behalf of the African American community is really strong and viable. I think our country gets better when the Black press is strong. And because, if you know anything about history, African Americans have oftentimes pushed the needle in trying to make things and change happen for the better. And I think this last year is no exception. You saw, really the need and the power of Black voices, and the Black press was at the ground level of this. And this isn't new for us, but I think it's something that I definitely want to be a part of. So when the other publishers, and at the time, I think it was Sunny Messiah Giles in Houston who called me and asked me if I was interested. And she knew I would be interested before she even picked up the phone, because I think anytime we can learn from each other, it helps bolster our newsrooms, right? And so I've learned from Tony, I've learned from Sunny, I've learned from all the other publishers that have been part of this, and have, I think, as well contributed to the discussion and to the growth of our publications.
Tony, Baltimore and Washington Afro, same question. Tell me, first of all, how you're doing in those two markets, and why are you part of this group?
So first of all, thank you, Mike. Good to be with you on today. And so we are doing relatively well during this time. COVID has its ups, its downs, its pluses and its minuses. And one of the pluses is Nick talked about the genesis of Word in Black. It really came out of the Fund for Local Journalism that Local Media Association sponsored, and some of us participated in that. And then in that post-conversation that Eleanor Tatum of the Amsterdam News had with Nancy Lane of Local Media Association, Word in Black was birthed. Like Larry, I am a multi-generational publisher. I'm fourth generation.
Wow.
Fourth generation. And in fact, we have fifth and sixth generation family members who are on the Afro team. And so we've seen a lot. We've seen a lot over our nearly 130 years, and the other publishers as well. And so we're legacy publications. And so somebody has already asked, why would the Afro do it? You're 130 years old. One of the, you're the longest family run newspaper, Black newspaper in the country. I'll tell you why, because we don't know what we don't know. I know that's an overworked axiom, but we are better together. And so the collaboration is the reason why we came together with other like-minded publishers, so that we can learn together, so that we can grow together, so that we can share together, so that we can expand together, and quite frankly, build our readership together and impact our bottom lines together. We've always been innovators. A lot of people are putting out Black content. This is Black-owned media. And as Nick said, or you said, maybe Mike at the beginning, there are only 230 such newspapers left in the entire country. So whatever we can do to collaborate to get the news out, the message out, to uplift our community and to celebrate our community, because we can focus like nobody else can, and we are trusted. We don't have to earn trust. We've earned trust. We do have to keep trust, as all publications do. We've earned trust over the years. And so that's why we are excited about Word in Black. We are excited about its future. We're excited about, as Nick said, when the time is right, expanding Word in Black and making sure that we can get the message out as far and as wide as possible.
Would there be, I mean, some of these brands like yours, Tony, are like mine. I mean, I've only been the steward. I don't even think I'm the publisher. I kind of think I'm trying to keep a 140-year-old brand vibrant and then hand it to someone else down the road. I mean, are you considering Word in Black to become kind of a new umbrella for all these brands, so there can be one place where the African-American community can go to see the collective journalism? Let me throw that one back at Nick. Is that the overall mission, Nick? An easy one-stop shop for the best in content? Or
I don't know if it's an easy one-stop shop. It's definitely an easy one-stop showcase.
Okay.
I think if you live in the regions and the cities where Larry is in Sacramento, where folk probably don't think there's a large Black community, but there is a sizable one there. In Seattle is one there. We know about DC and Baltimore and St. Louis and New York, but the communities exist across the country. And if you want to know specifically about things in those cities, you'd go to our publishers. But if you want to get a sense of what these folks are writing about, the threads and the issues that are all woven together and are confronting and are challenging African-American communities, you would come to Word in Black.
You know, I took the show on the road a couple of months ago. I was honored to be asked by the Association of Alternative News Media to go to Boston, where they were having their annual conference, and I hosted a panel on the G&I Ad Transformation Lab, which focused on minority publications, but not on content like you guys are, but on simply technology. And I was honored to meet finally one of my heroes, Dr. Benjamin Chavez. I mean, if you're discussing an icon in our industry, you know, who obviously is the president and CEO of National Newspaper Publishers Association. But one of the things that they were saying on this panel, correct me if I'm wrong, is that this, how should I say, microcosm of publishers tends to not be as digitally advanced as others. Do you concur with that, Larry? Do you feel like maybe this consortium working together, you can exchange ideas and make sure you're as advanced as you can in your delivery methods?
Yeah, I mean, I think you know, look, if you are in our business, as I know most of your listeners are, you know, technology is changing every day, right? And so, yeah. So, I mean, so, you know, what you knew yesterday, you don't know about today. And so I think it's really important for, you know, I mentioned the ecosystem for our publications to be able to learn from each other and to partner together. And I think that's one of the things that I think Word in Black has helped. But you mentioned the G&I, you know, Ad Transformation Lab. I mean, our newsroom went through it. Tony's did as well too. So, yeah, most of our publications went through it. It is learning and embracing the digital transformation is critical to every newsroom. And so the Observer is not, or the Black press is not, you know, at fault for not being as progressive as we would like. I think, you know, if you talk to folks, I'm in Sacramento, if you talk to folks at the Sacramento Bee, they're struggling to figure it out as well too. So I think it's really important that what we have found is that you know, if we are given the opportunity and the resources to learn and to figure things out, we're finding out that we can do it pretty well and pretty quickly. You know, the Afro's digital footprint is as large as any ethnic publication in the country, and I think it's important that we learn from each other. You know, and as Tony said, you know, we're trying to build this together. I think, you know, the old African saying, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. I think that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make sure that we go far together.
I think we just got our pull quote. Tony, I want to ask you about the audience. You maybe no one on this knows or cares about my background, but I spent 20 years as a media consultant for the newspaper industry, helping to create change in the advertising side, digital. And a Black publication in St. Louis had me out there a number of times. Is it called The American? Is it still around? There was a wonderful family, a dentist, I believe, who owned it at the time. Is that, first of all, you're nodding your head, Larry, is that paper still in existence?
He's part of Word in Black.
Oh, that's the St. Louis American. I already said the word.
Yes, Dr. Suggs.
So it is part of okay. What I learned is the value of the audience. The more research I devour, because remember, I'm on the business side, the ad side, that this reader actually can be what we call an alpha reader, someone who influences others. So if you can get that message out there, Tony, how advanced is your publication in getting that kind of advertising revenue? And I mean, I know we're all discussing the editorial side, but is that something that you guys focus on in Washington, D.C. with garnering that necessary advertising dollar?
Let me answer you this way. Every single publisher, including the 10 of Word and Black, are focused on the revenue side.
Right.
We're focused on the revenue side, and we're focusing on the monetization of the digital footprint. It's one thing to go digital. We've had Afro.com for 30 years. We're one of the first in that space. But as we look at the industry and the evolution of the industry, and Mike, I'm not telling you something that you don't know and think about, I'm sure, all the time. The newspaper industry has been struggling for a while. The
Yes.
transformation, right, from print to digital, and then once you're in the digital space, how do you monetize that? How do you capitalize on that? That's something that all of us are grappling with, especially in the environment when people want things for free, right?
Of course.
And your metrics need to be at a certain level in order to attract the kind of support that you really need. So we are monitoring our analytics. We are doing everything that we can, and we're learning all we can to talk about how to boost those numbers and the reach and you know, the views and the impressions and all of the things that we need to do. And I think we can be more nimble because we don't have to go through a whole lot of layers to get a yes to try something either. So we're trying it. If it works, we're sharing it. If it doesn't work, we're still working together. If Larry's out there first with something, I can call Larry and say, hey, you tried this, how did it work? And so that's the beauty, I think, of our collaboration.
How are you coordinating all this, Nick? How are you getting these ideas disseminated? What are you doing to keep this group growing? And
cracking the whip. Honestly.
There you go.
I was not going to say that, and Larry, stop laughing. Look, I work for and with the 10 publishers. I take my direction and my cues from them. They're the ones who've been in this business a lot longer than the Black-owned press that I have. I've worked for the Black-owned press, but they own the Black press.
Right.
They're the ones who know their communities best. I know editorial, I know journalism, I know a little bit of the business side, and putting all that together, we look and we try to find the things that work. To what Dr. Draper said and to what Larry said, it's constantly learning new things, constantly trying new things. Not everything is going to work the first time around, but we try to make sure that we are advancing and progressing together. I think, the transformation to digital and the transition is tough for everyone. Nobody's doing it easily. And for legacy publications, newspapers like Black-owned press, it doubly so in some respect because some of our audiences are not where we would like them to be in terms of digital. But we keep pressing ahead and we want to attract new audiences. We have meetings all the time. There has to be constant communication, emails flying, phone calls, especially Dr. Draper late at night, texts, whatever we need to get in touch with each other to let us all know. I have a listserv, which I send out. I'm sure all of them are tired of seeing all the notes I send, but that way we're always on the same page. I try not to make a step forward or a step sideways without consulting them, or at least letting them know that I'm going to try to do this so that they are prepared. It's like driving a car. Don't make the left turn without you put on your signal. That's what I do.
Larry, give me.
Mike, yeah, well, I was just going to add to that because, collaborations are not necessarily new. But they are definitely challenging. Oftentimes they fail because of the lack of the details that I think are really important. We're working on a collaboration in Sacramento, but this is no different. When Nick is on us, we meet regularly. The beauty of this 10 group, right, is we all get along. We all like working with each other. We all respect each other's brilliance and value. And so I think when we talk about as we start to expand it, we will do that. But there's a muscle that you have to build up with saying how do you work together and be productive and be respectful and all that stuff. So we're working together pretty I think pretty amazingly, to be honest. The fact we have sweat equity in this. One of my other publishers asked me the other day, he said, what have I missed with Word and Black so far? I said, well, the main thing you've missed is a lot of meetings. They're really, I mean, I look forward to, catching up with everyone we meet every week. And it's been great.
So this might become the new petri dish of advancing the Black press. My question is then, I was trying to ask you, Larry, give me the I was going to say the elevator pitch on the audience. When you're out there pitching your product, whether it's to participation for a civic organization or an advertiser, what is the value of this audience? Why should Black press survive and thrive in every single city in North America, in your opinion?
Very simply, because their needs are not being met by anyone else. We meet our community's needs where they are, and we speak from the community. I mean, I literally, our reporters are on the ground. They listen to our community. They come back to our newsroom with stories and story ideas. And so the beauty of Word in Black, because we are all publications in our own communities, we are going to report up, and not report down, but we're reporting up from the ground. And I think that that's extremely unique and extremely, we're very lucky to have this sort of collaboration, because you have, other folks say they can go to other places to get national African-American news. You can go to Black Twitter and get African-American news somehow, some way from someone. But really, it is from the top down. And so it's going to have a national discussion that might not necessarily really be rooted in real communities. We're telling real community stories, so the idea of disinformation doesn't necessarily happen from the Black press, because we have to be truth tellers in our communities. And so, like I said, their needs are not getting met elsewhere.
Dr. Draper, see, I used your professional title there because Nick has been using it. Dr. Draper,
Yes.
Is there truly a difference? And I'm setting you up for an answer I already know, but that's my job, right? Because that's my show and I can do this. Is there truly a difference between an audience, a Black audience in Sacramento versus Washington, D.C.?
There absolutely is a difference, but there are more similarities than there are differences.
Mm-hmm.
Geographically, we're different. Climate-wise, we're different. But there's some commonalities that go across geography. And as Larry said, we report from the inside out. We don't report from the outside looking in. We are a part of the community that we report on. So are there differences? People are different. And so one of the things that we all would agree, I believe, is that the African-American community is not monolithic. And so just because we are the Black press and we speak for our community, we recognize and we can drill down into the nuances. We can make the distinctions within our community and not pretend that we know every single distinction, but we recognize right off the bat, we're not monolithic, we're not all the same, we're different. And we're different within the Black community in the same cities. Not only are we different across the country, but within Baltimore, all African Americans are not the same.
I had the honor and privilege of speaking at two Southern events, not that South versus North. I was the keynote speaker for the Press Association, just on the cusp of the Delta surge. We had 350 people in the audience. Did a private speech for a group of Southern newspapers based out of Texas. In the audience was about 60 publishers, advertising directors, and senior executives. Ballpark, I would say both rooms were 90% not of color. Does that surprise any of you on this call, Larry?
No, not at all. We have not been at the table. The Black press has been oftentimes forgotten about. One of the first Black businesses in this country is the Black newspaper. The Black press has been around since, it wasn't legal for us to even read. So we've been at the table. We've not been at the table because oftentimes we've been forgotten about. And it's not, I don't think it's, necessarily, a problem that we have done. I think the industry in and of itself has not been diverse. I've worked in non-African-American newsrooms, and I know what those newsrooms. Wait a second.
Every organization now has taken someone of color, given them a title, and throw him in the newsroom and say, "You're now the chief of diversity." Isn't that going to work? He said. Tony,
tongue fully in cheek.
This is what I'm hearing. I'm hearing I mean, I'm doing these interviews, Tony. Is that the solution? We'll just promote someone and make them head of diversity and see if that changes the culture. You're obviously, this is not going to work. Am I correct, Tony?
The culture is going to have to change in the boardroom.
What kind of culture do you feel is, I'm taking us a little off topic, but I have got to when I have, three leaders in Black journalism here, or I should say in Black press. What is wrong with the culture, Tony? Go ahead and say it.
There are a couple of things that are wrong with the culture in general, but when I say it begins in the boardroom, when people are really serious about changing the culture of their organization, when they're really serious, they take a look at their board of directors and they say, am I modeling what I say I want to see? And if I'm not modeling that at the top level in the C-suite, then trying to model it at the lower level with people that don't have as much clout or pull at the top level, it's not going to work. Just saying it is not going to work. Just putting a DE&I person in place it's not going to work, because and we talk about this a lot and people want to push back, but the structures there's structural racism in our industry as it is in other industry. And until we really want to talk about the elephant in the room and make a real difference, it's not going to change. And it never has changed with putting one person in place.
Nick, what do you want to add?
Dr. Draper, you want to finish and then I'll add?
No, I'm done. Go ahead, Nick.
No, I'll be even more frank than the two of them because, I don't own anything, so nobody can come out to my newspaper. But the reality is, Nadim and Lab did a piece a couple of months ago where they said, those newspapers that have still survived and are still around, and the digital products, they're still centering and focusing on certain audiences. Even as the culture changes, even as the demographics change, they're still centering their coverage and their importance. To Larry's point, yeah, you have people being hired to cover a national mainstream press, to cover or lead. But to Dr. Draper's point, that having that one person, and particularly DE&I, I'm not knocking DE&I. I'm glad those folks have positions. But if the DE&I is not in
you should define that for our audience in case they don't know.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Thank you.
that ethos is not part of your DNA, if it's something that you think is ad hoc and it's over here to be dealt with and it's not part and parcel of what you're doing every day, it's not going to work. And usually DE&I people come in, they spend a year or two, get paid well, and then they frustratingly leave because the things that they want to implement are never being implemented because we're still looking at the same audiences. And the advantage that the Black-owned press has now, we have so many other channels and platforms to reach audiences we need. So we don't have to really depend on just having mainstream press cover stuff and trickle down or send a reporter. Again, these newspapers, these media organizations, which are part of the first businesses in Black communities after the clergy and the professionals, doctors, lawyers, teachers, it's always been the press. They have always been there. As Larry said, they're trusted, they're respected. You want to reach folks about taking the COVID vaccine? Yeah, you can put it in mainstream press. Send some advertising dollars the way of the Black-owned press, and you'll see how many people sign up because they trust the fact that these folks will tell them the truth.
Do you believe that projects like the Local Journalism Sustainability Act will be offered on a level, I have to ask this, on a level playing field, or should there be other initiatives immediately to make sure that these niche publications that serve not even minorities anymore, that's absurd. If these publications should be getting some other attention now by our federal government, because I don't see a lot of that happening right now. It's about stopping news deserts, but not helping your voices. Does this make sense, Nick? What I'm saying?
No, what you're saying is right, but it's not just Black-owned press. It's the indigenous press. It's the Latino local and press. It's the rural press. You're talking about newspaper deserts or media deserts. It's not just in African American communities in the South or the Southwest. You're talking about Latino communities. You're talking about indigenous communities. These also are communities that need to be uplifted and who would benefit from acts like that, where they can have dollars so they can hire people to do the work that needs to be done. No one wants these folks to go away, but how do you get them to stay and maintain and grow? They have the audiences, they have the trust, they have the editorial chops.
Trust, right?
What they need now, chops and trust. What they need now is to make sure they have the funding. And if you're going to have something that says local, the top line should be, okay, Now, when you say local, and then people are going to say, well, the ethnic press. Well, the ethnic press is also local. Black-owned owned media is local too. It's locally in St. Louis. It's locally in Sacramento. It's locally in Baltimore and DC. It's not existing somewhere in some other region.
This brings up a good point, and I'll direct this at Larry, and you can amplify this a little bit if you wish. But I'm a student of history, and one thing we have learned that crisis accelerates change. So here we go through the COVID crisis, which has been, amazingly sad situation politically and, of course, for our society as a whole. But it did accelerate a change where people now crave. There's more appetite now for local content than there is for the echo chamber of the cable news. All the research is starting to show that now. People are actually saying, my God, I need that local voice right now to help me go through the day. That's the voice I trust most. Larry, are you feeling that energy now as you come?
Yeah.
Or, excuse me?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Yeah. So I can speak for the ground of where the Observer has been. So we were in the midst of kind of a transformation before COVID hit. COVID reinforced everything, right? I mean, it was we knew that we were going to be doing, more things digitally. We knew that we were going to have, kind of a different kind of a approach to our print products and the audience that it serves. So yeah, it has definitely reinforced and accelerated that change. For us, I'll be honest, the Observer is healthier now than we've been in a long time. And a lot of it is because we made some harder decisions before COVID hit. But like I said, COVID kind of reinforced it. And so now we are witnessing, I think, a transformation in our newsroom. We've tripled the size of our newsroom this year, and literally, just continue to add people and add voices. And the response has been tremendous. Our growth with digital audiences has been tremendous. So to your point, yeah, people definitely want local. They want to know, they want to see themselves reflected in the pages and the both digital and print pages that we're producing. And it's good to see. It is good to see.
Tony, do you feel the same way? And give me an example of a story that broke or something that you published recently that made you go to bed that night going, yeah, we nailed it.
Well, we say that every week.
Good for you.
But there are three parts to the pandemic. Certainly the COVID is the health part, and it's very, very prominent. But three things fueled, I think, the Black press. The 2020 election, the murder of George Floyd, and this pandemic, which put a lot of attention on the Black press.
Right.
You asked about the Local Journalism Sustainability Act a few moments ago. Of the three parts of that proposed legislation, the one that deals with increasing the number of journalists in the newsroom is really, really key for the tax credits for that, because we have already shown that when we get those resources to get that news content even accelerated beyond what it is, then it just ups the ante, if you will, for the value of the Black press. And so, yes, those things have changed our approach, and our newsroom has accelerated some things, but it's an ongoing kind of effort that's going forth. And so I'm kind of answering both of your questions, because I know you asked that other one earlier.
There you go. Nick, if somebody wants to learn more, or if there is a Black publication that want to at least drink from your well of knowledge, if I may use, I've heard so many metaphors today, I thought throw a new one in. How do they learn more about Word in Black, and how do they get a hold of you?
Definitely go to our site, wordinblack.com. My number is there. My email is there. You go to the staff page. You can always reach me, like Dr. Draper does. And then you can also go to all of our publishers themselves. We have an about page, and all of them are there, and the contact information is there. And I think we are a known quantity to some extent now. There's a lot of really good Black-owned press. The Bay State Banner in Boston got in touch with me the other day. I found out a Tennessee Tribune in Nashville had said, no, we have a lot of folks who are interested in things like this. And maybe they don't join Word in Black, but maybe this is a template that creates other collaborations. We don't have to be the only person in town. We think there's a larger table where everybody can sit. So we're not trying to be, quote unquote, an exclusive club. We just like, the first folks to do it. But we want other folks to come along and do the same thing. Tony was talking about the idea of having, the sustainability and the local news. It's important because COVID exposed and brought to light so many things that we as Black people, African Americans, already knew. All the disproportionate bad outcomes of COVID hit us harder and still continue to do so. George Floyd's murder showed us the relationships with us and police, how bad it was and how we have to start working to get it better. So all these things now, which are now parts of national conversation, we've been out there telling and growing and doing stories and covering for decades.
Larry, final thoughts.
Well, I mean, I think as far as this collaboration goes, I think it is really like Nick said, it's a template. I definitely want to take. I'm on the board of local media associations, so I want to take this opportunity to really thank LMA and its leadership. Nancy Lane has been a fantastic leader for LMA, and I think that we couldn't do a lot of the stuff that we're doing together without the infrastructure of that support and that backbone of that association. So, obviously many of your listeners are going to be newsroom folks, and I would say support LMA as well too, because this type of work is rooted in their DNA, and I think it's showing in the product that we're helping produce.
We'll save the doctorate for last. Tony, final thoughts for the Word in Black audience and for the initiative?
The final thought is that working together in this collaboration really is important. As Larry said, we can formulate collaborations all over the country to do what we need to do to amplify our voices. I want to thank you, Mike, editor and publisher, published that article as you started off talking about to amplify our voices about Word in Black. Nicole Hannah-Jones picked it up on Twitter as your article. All she said was it was good. And from that article, we saw an explosion in newsletter signups and in donations. And so when we work together and we collaborate, the local news has to survive, because if not, we will not impact local legislation, we will not impact local issues, and they filter up or down, depending on your viewpoint, to regional and national issues.
I just may add, I know that the tragedy of George Floyd was definitely a cultural shift for decades to come, but not only showing the disparity in our culture, but also imagine if there wasn't a press to break that story. How many George Floyds were they before truth came to power? That's the scary part of all this. So if without a press of any kind, whether it's a niche, whether it's any, but if without a free press, this is what our framers had to put in place to put that final check on power. So there is truth to power. And that's as far as I'm concerned. And I think that's one of the amazing missions we all have to keep our eye on each and every day. Nick, good luck with this new job. It sounds like they're working you hard.
I know, Michael. I know. It's really, really tough.
It sounds like you're having the time of your life. Once again, the website is wordinblack.com. Tony, Larry, Nick, thanks for your valuable time. Stay healthy and well. And ENP is going to stay on top of this, and we'll be revisiting it again. Thank you.
Mike.
Thanks again so much for having us.